Tree appraisal, the foundation of value. If you're listening to this, you're likely an arborist, a consultant, or a landscape professional who has looked at a tree and realized it's not just biology. It's an asset. It's infrastructure. And sometimes, it's a liability. If you are preparing for the American Society of Consulting Arborist Tree and Plant Appraisal Qualification TPAQ, you've probably realized that value is a much bigger word than it looks on paper. Today, we're laying the cornerstone. Before you can master the complex math of the 10th edition guide, you have to understand the philosophy of valuation. You have to understand why we appraise, who we are appraising for, and what we are actually measuring. Let's start with a foundational concept. Value is not an inherent property of a tree. It's not like height or trunk diameter. Value is contextual. Think about it this way. If you're a forester, you're looking at a stand of timber. You're calculating stumpage value. You're asking, if I cut this down, put it on a truck and haul it to the mill, what's the check gonna look like? That is a purely extractive, commodity-based value. It's based on the wood fiber. But now move that same tree. Put it in a high-end residential backyard in the suburbs. Suddenly, that stumpage value is completely irrelevant. To that homeowner, that tree isn't a pile of 2x4s. That tree is privacy. It's a 20% reduction in their summer cooling bill. It's the curb appeal that makes the house sell for $50,000 more than the one next door. We call this the difference between real estate value and amenity value. As an appraiser, your first job isn't to pull out a diameter tape. Your first job is to ask, what is the function of this plant in this specific location? If you miss the context, you miss the value. Now let's talk about the 3 pillars of any appraisal assignment. These are the purpose, the intended use, and the intended user. The purpose is the question you're answering. Usually it's, what is the monetary value of this plant? The intended use is how your report will be used. Is it for an insurance claim, a tort or trespass case where a neighbor cut down a tree, or is it for a municipal tree bond? And the intended user, this is critical. Is it the homeowner? An attorney? A judge? Your report must be written so that the intended user can understand your logic without being an expert in dendrochronology. One of the most common mistakes new appraisers make is failing to define the effective date. The value of a tree in July might be different than its value in December, after a storm has altered the landscape. Imagine you're called to a site where a contractor accidentally knocked over a mature white oak. The tree is gone. The stump is ground. You are performing what we call a retrospective appraisal. You have to travel back in time. You aren't appraising what's there now, which is a hole in the ground. You're appraising the condition and value of the tree as it stood the day before the damage. You have to be a detective. You're looking at Google Earth historical images, talking to neighbors, looking at the health of the surrounding trees to infer what that oak looked like. You are building a credible opinion of a ghost. Let's get into the credibility factor. In the industry, we often point to USPAP, the Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice. USPAP tells us that an appraisal is an opinion of value. Now, some people hear the word opinion, and they think it means guess. But in our world, an opinion is a conclusion, reached through the systematic application of a methodology. To be credible means your peers would look at your data, follow your logic, and come to a similar conclusion. If you can't explain why you chose a 70% condition rating instead of a 50% rating, your value isn't credible. It's just a number on a page. And in a courtroom, a non-credible number is a target for the opposing counsel. Before we wrap up this first episode, I want to touch on the 2 main ways we look at money: market value versus replacement cost. Market value is what a willing buyer would pay a willing seller. It's hard to find a market for a single 50-year-old oak tree. You can't exactly browse TreeBay and find a comparable sale for a tree that's already in the ground. That's why we often lean on the cost approach. We ask, what would it cost to replace the functions of this tree? This involves looking at the largest commonly available nursery tree. We'll spend a whole episode on this later, but for now, just know that the cost of the tree at the nursery is only the beginning. You have to factor in the labor, the equipment, the site restoration, and the cost of care to ensure that new tree actually survives. Planting is not an additional cost. It is an integral cost. You haven't replaced the tree until it is in the ground and growing. Appraisal is where the consulting arborist really shines. It's where you stop being the person with the chainsaw and start being the person with the professional opinion. This series is going to take you through the technicalities, the trunk formula method, the site components, and the updates on measurement heights. But never forget the why. We appraise because trees are a part of our collective wealth. They are biological capital. In our next episode, we're going to dive into the professional framework, the Council of Tree and Landscape Appraisers, or the CTLA. We'll talk about how the 10th edition changed the game, and what you need to know about the TPAQ certificate program. If you're studying for the exam, keep your guide for plant appraisal close. but keep your eyes on the landscape. You've been listening to the Arborist-podcast. Our goal is to grow our collective knowledge, one domain at a time. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like, share, and subscribe to help us keep this momentum.